There comes a point in every person's life when you realize that the crowd won't save you, the applause won't push you, and the people you thought would show up don't. It's in that silence, in that loneliness, in that stillness, that something inside you wakes up. Not the weak part, not the insecure part, but the warrior. You see, there's something powerful about doing it alone. Something unstoppable about not waiting for permission, approval, or applause. Because when you move by yourself, you move with purpose. You don't need a pat on the back when your mission is survival. You don't wait for motivation when your back's against the wall, and you sure as hell don't beg anyone to believe in your vision. You build it brick by brick. They thought you needed help. They thought you needed connections. They thought you needed to be part of their club. But what they didn't realize is when the doors closed, you built your own. When they walked away, you walked further. When they said you can't, you said, watch me. See, people celebrate the victory, but they don't know the story. They see the success, but they didn't see the nights you cried alone. They didn't feel the hunger, the doubt, the fear. But you did. And you fought through it anyway. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you dangerous. You're a one-man army, and that means you don't fold under pressure. You become pressure. There were no shortcuts. No handouts, no cosigns, just blood, sweat, silence, and self-belief. That's what forged you. That's what made you unbreakable. You didn't need to fit in because you were born to stand out. And while they were sleeping on you, you were grinding. While they were partying, you were planning. While they were watching, you were working. So now they ask how you did it, how you stayed strong, how you kept going. You tell them the truth. There is a profound shift that happens when you stop depending on the world to push you forward and start depending on yourself. Self-reliance isn't about ego. It's about unlocking a force within you that's been waiting to rise, dormant, silent, but powerful. When the cheers go quiet and the crowd disappears, most people freeze. They panic. They start to question their worth, their purpose, their path. But there are a few, very few, who don't fall apart. Instead, they lean in. They realize the absence of support is not a sign of weakness, but an invitation to rise. When no one shows up for you, that's when you must show up for yourself with even more fire. Doing it alone teaches you something no mentor, no book, no motivational speech can ever teach. It shows you what you're truly made of. Because the truth is, most people are afraid to be alone. They're afraid to trust themselves. They always look for someone to lean on, someone to blame, someone to validate their effort. But when you are all you've got, when you are the only one in the arena, something inside you awakens. You start making decisions not based on what others think, but based on what you know is right for you. You develop discipline because no one's going to tell you what time to wake up, how hard to push, or when to stop. You decide that. You become the authority of your own life. This kind of power is dangerous. In the best way, because when a person realizes they don't need to be carried, that they have legs of their own, the game changes. You become independent not just in action, but in mindset. You stop chasing validation. You stop seeking permission. You stop asking, can I do this? And instead you say, watch me. That inner shift is how movements are born, how leaders are forged, how underdogs become giants. It's not about isolation or bitterness. It's about strength. It's about finding peace in your own presence and power in your own silence. Most people never access this part of themselves because they're too afraid to face the discomfort. But discomfort is where growth lives. It's where resilience is built. When everything around you crumbles, your foundation becomes your mindset. And if you've trained that mindset through self-reliance, through discipline, through hunger, then nothing can take you down. You don't need someone to lift you when you've already lifted yourself. You don't fear falling when you've already climbed from the bottom once before. Doing it alone doesn't mean doing it without struggle. It means doing it despite it. It means choosing to believe in yourself when no one else does. It means showing up every single day with a mission in your soul and a storm in your chest. That's what it means to unlock your inner power. That's what it means to be a one-man army. Adversity has a way of revealing who you really are. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for a good time. It shows up uninvited and unapologetic. Most people see adversity as the enemy. But if you look closely, it's actually the training ground for the strongest versions of ourselves. When you go through life alone, when you fight your battles without backup, Every struggle becomes a lesson, and every setback becomes a stepping stone. Adversity forces you to choose break down or break through, and if you choose the latter, you don't just survive, you transform. Pain has a purpose. Every time you're doubted, every time you're overlooked, every time someone tells you you're not enough. That pain can either bury you or build you. The difference lies in your response. When you've got no one cheering you on, when you don't have a hand to hold, you either quit or you dig deeper. And when you dig deeper, you find something you didn't even know was there. A fire, a hunger, a reason to keep going when everything says stop. That's resilience. That's what adversity builds in the one who chooses to endure it instead of run from it. You don't learn resilience from comfort. You don't grow strong by avoiding the storm. You grow when you're standing in the middle of chaos, and instead of asking, why me, you declare, try me. When the world is silent and the nights are long, when the failures keep stacking and no one sees your effort, that's where warriors are made. Alone in the shadows, alone in the grind. It's in that space where doubt gets loud and fear creeps in, but you fight anyway. You press forward not because it's easy, but because you've committed to the journey, no matter how rough it gets. Resilience isn't built on victories, it's built on losses, rejection, and unanswered prayers. It's forged in moments where you have every reason to give up, but you don't. You lace up anyway, you get up anyway. You show up anyway. People might see your wins later, but they'll never understand the pain that birthed your progress. They'll admire the strength, but never recognize the scars that built it, and that's okay, because this path was never about applause. It was about evolution, and when you finally rise, when you break through the barrier that was meant to hold you back, you don't just become stronger, you become unstoppable, not because you were protected from the struggle, but because you were shaped by it. That's the power of doing it alone. That's what adversity gifts those who refuse to bow down. You're not just surviving anymore. You're leading, you're thriving, and you're showing the world that a one-man army, forged in fire, is the most dangerous force of all. Victory without validation is one of the most powerful experiences a person can have. In a world obsessed with attention, likes, followers, and applause, doing something great without anyone watching feels almost invisible. But that's where real power is born, when you don't need the world to tell you that you're enough. When you've proven it to yourself in silence, you become untouchable. Most people are addicted to recognition. They wait for approval before they take a step, and when the applause fades, so does their motivation. But when you do it without an audience, when you grind in the dark with no spotlight, your drive comes from somewhere deeper. And that kind of fire never goes out. There's something sacred about building alone. No one sees the late nights. No one hears the self-doubt echoing in your mind. No one feels the weight you carry or the pressure you face. And yet you show up, you don't post about it, you don't need to, because you're not working for claps, you're working for change. Real growth happens when the only one holding you accountable is you. No fans, no feedback, no congratulations, just you, your vision, and your will to push through. That's what separates the truly committed from the casual dreamers. When you reach your victory after walking that path alone, the reward is different. It's not just the achievement. It's what you became to reach it. You became disciplined, you became focused, you became relentless, and the best part, no one can take that away from you because they didn't give it to you. It wasn't borrowed, it wasn't handed over, it was earned. Every step, every sacrifice, every silent win, you built that. And when you realize you don't need outside praise to feel worthy, you stop chasing people and start chasing purpose. The truth is, if you always need someone to notice your progress, you'll never be free, because you'll always be chained to their opinions. But when you validate yourself, when you look in the mirror and know you gave everything without needing a pat on the back, you unlock a different level of peace, a different level of pride. It's the kind that doesn't scream, "Look at me." It whispers, "I know who I am." That's what makes you dangerous. You don't need a platform. You don't need a stage. You don't even need anyone to understand your journey, because you're not here to impress. You're here to impact. You're not waiting to be crowned. You already claimed your crown in the quiet moments when no one was watching. And when the world finally catches up and asks how you did it, you don't need to explain. You just smile, nod, and keep moving forward, because the real ones know the loudest victories are the ones earned in silence, the ones no one clapped for, the ones you did alone,